right? That's what they can do. So they essentially get away with murder. Um, going back to the culture. Um, so the rejection of the system wholesale, I don't particularly agree with, but I understand it. There's a difference. There's a difference between co-signing something and understanding something. That's what I think that a lot of the problems come in when talking, trying to explain this to white people. They think you're co-signing it just because you're acknowledging that that's what's being done. I'm like, that's what people are going to do. It's a coping mechanism. Okay? Nobody wants to, if somebody's locked out of something, nobody wants to define themselves by that. Okay? And I always hear white people, why don't they just go off and get an education? Again, who holds all the opportunities? The very same white people who already have negative perceptions of black people and don't want to hire them anyway. All right? If you got a black sounding name, you get 50% less callback. A white guy named Grant Wellington is going to get more of a callback than Tyrone Biggums. Okay? That's just what it is. And nobody wants to address that inequality. White people essentially control the whole system. Okay? So this idea that black people who don't control the system are going to be able to do something to turn it around. No, they can't do anything to turn it around. If there's no jobs, there's no gainful employment, they can't do anything to turn it around because it starts with the economic opportunities and the money. Now, do they need to be educated? Yeah, sure, they need to be educated, but an education doesn't mean anything if you don't have gainful employment waiting for you at the end of that rainbow. That's the pot of gold. The purpose of an education is for a job, right? And that job needs to pay you what? A livable wage. That's the whole point. I don't get these people who like to act like or say that simply getting an education is going to solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. Then we get into, well, why don't black people create opportunities for themselves? I'm like, at this point, we would have been better off if Tulsa, Oklahoma never got burnt down, or Rosewood, Florida never got burnt down, or Springfield, Illinois, or Omaha, Nebraska. You didn't have these race riots where you had whites go into these communities and burn them down. Nobody's talking about reparations for all the revenue and all the wealth that was lost from those communities over the last 80 years. What could they have been if they weren't burnt down? Now it could be argued, well, like you said, integration killed it. Yeah, it could be argued that, they just died after integration because all the black people are running around with their, internalized self-hatred and want to join white people and have everything that white people. So it could have went that route. But at this point, again, how do you start a business? What's one of the first things you do to start a business? Okay, you come up with the idea, and then what? You take your idea, you get some investors, right? You got to put up some money. You get your loan, or maybe you don't have to put up as much money, but you got to put up something. You got to have some type of collateral, which African Americans we know those people don't have it. Okay, so they got a house that's worth nothing. They have no generational wealth. So what's going to go up as collateral? What white entities are going to give them the loans that they're going to be good on, but to create their own economic opportunities? Who's going to do that? So there's barrier after barrier after barrier that African Americans have absolutely no control over. But you don't get this acknowledgement from white people. They want to act. What they want is they want African Americans to behave like white people, despite the fact that they don't have the resources. Okay. And stupid thing is, it's like I can go right into the white community and go to the white communities where people have basically nothing, and you're going to see a lot of the same problems. Now, it may not be as bad, it may not be as drastic, because they're still a part of the dominant group. Even though they're poor and they're dusty and they're white people living in trailers and stuff, they can still go out there and get a job from another white person, which actually means something. Okay? There's something to be said about being a group that is wholly dependent on another group for your economic survival. Okay? That creates issues with our women. Hey, I'm a white guy. I could walk into a room and walk into a building, and I'm a part of the group that feeds their women, that their women get all of their economic opportunity. That's why it's a joke for me when women are like, "We're strong and independent." I'm like strong and independent. I'm like, men create the businesses and the jobs and the opportunities and hire y'all. A woman can't be strong and independent, unless a group of men build the office for her to be strong and independent in. So it's a joke whether a white woman is saying that or a black woman is saying that. It's a joke. Okay, but the issue for black men is because we don't control the economic landscape of our communities, right? We end up having the issue with our women in terms of basically the same thing that you white guys hear, but you white guys can dismiss because collectively you control the economic landscapes of your community. We don't. So we got to deal with all the attitude and all the you ain't shit. We got to deal with all that. Okay? We got to deal with the I get everything I need from the white man. Okay? That's the type of stuff we got to deal with. And that's the type of stuff that'll have a man not being in the home. It just further pushes him out. I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm just saying it just adds to the problem dynamic. Okay? Then when you have a situation where white men are hiring black women because black women are safe, they're non-threatening, okay? But they're not hiring black men, you end up with a situation where the children that grow up in that environment, the boys are seeing nothing but women lead, and the girls are seeing nothing but women lead. Okay, so the girls, they grow up and they basically want to pull their dick out on everybody, and then the boys, like you said in your video, there's no guidance, there's no male guidance. And on top of that, even if the men were there, if they're not controlling the economic landscape in the community, what would they be guiding them to do? Is that's another thing people always kind of leave out. Like, what would they be guiding them to do if they're not doing the same thing that other communities are doing, other patriarchal communities are doing, like the white community does? Maintaining the businesses and the stores and the economy and this, that, and the third. Young men would have to see that in their own community, coming from their own people. That means something. Coming from your own people. This whole notion of kumbaya is absurd. Okay? It's not kumbaya. I don't have any racist bone in my body. But the reality is there is no kumbaya. And kumbaya is something that the white media, the white elite, even some black leaders have been selling to the black masses, and what has it done for African Americans? Nothing. Because we forced our way into a sandbox that we didn't own, we didn't control, and the little white children on the other side of the sandbox did not want to play with us. Okay? Me, I don't want to be in that sandbox if they don't want to share, they don't want to play, none of that stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like inviting a black person to a dinner that it's $100 a plate, but he only has $5 in his pocket. I'm not trying to be made an ass of like that. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm gonna wait till I get my $100 and then I'll come to your nice little dinner and everything. Or even better yet, I'm gonna wait till I get my $100 and then some, and then invite you to the place where I decide to have dinner and invite you to it with a table with a whole bunch of black men surrounded by it. See, when you start talking like that, white men don't like that. It's like I was in a bar and I got into it with a white guy and we were talking about black people and everything. He was coming with that black people are lazy crap, right? And I said, what's funny? I was like, 1 minute, black people are lazy. We don't want to work. We don't want to do anything. And then the very next minute, it'll be, and black people are taking up all the jobs from affirmative action. I'm like, how is that logically consistent? How is it black people are all lazy? They're not working. They don't want to work, right? They'd rather sell drugs. But then at the same time, we're taking up all the good jobs that we're not qualified for, despite the fact that 5 minutes ago we were told to get an education, but now our education is being questioned and we're not qualified for the job, and we only got the job because of affirmative action, and we're sapping up all the good jobs, so much so that the white man doesn't have a job, bah humbug. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. But I'll tell you what didn't make even more sense. What didn't even make even more sense, if I'm even saying that appropriately, was where I said that black people would have to practice group economics. Okay? And he jumped up and he said, that's racist. This is a white guy. That's racist. Group economics, that's racist. And I said, Okay. Um, what's the problem with the black community? I'll tell you what the problem with the black community is. The problem with the black community is you blacks don't invest in your own community. All the educated black people run out and live with the white people in the suburbs instead of taking care of their own community. And I was like blown away. I was like, oh my God, is that not what I just said? I just said black people need to practice group economics, and you tell me it's racist. You tell me I should focus on kumbaya. We all love each other, right? I mean, basically what he said, this is what's funny about what he said. Basically what he said is that the concerns in the black community are not his own, because he's a white guy. They're not my concerns. It's not my community. But yet he's trying to sell me kumbaya. He's trying to sell me this idea of we're all one. We are the world. We are the children, which is a bunch of bullshit. Okay? Yeah, we are the world. We are the children until it comes time to money, until it comes time to people getting paid. Then all of a sudden, it's I got mine. Okay? If you don't have yours, that's on you. But what was really hypocritical about what he said is in other words, what I was saying was that black people basically need to do exactly what white people do, which is practice group economics. When black people say that what white people are doing is racist, white people deny and say it's not racist. But then when I make the suggestion that black people do exactly what white people do, I get accused of being a racist. But yet, what white people do isn't racist, but yet what we do is racist. I'm like, how does where is the logical consistency? There isn't any. Okay? And see, and you can say, oh, well, you're just debating with an idiot, and you're just arguing with an idiot. I'm saying, even going with that, if what I am saying is true, then you know that what we're ultimately talking about are African Americans being economically competitive with white people shoulder to shoulder, or at least to the point where, like, example, when you go into a city, right? Yeah, your screen name says you live out in LA. You see Korean towns and you see Asian towns and you see, little Mexicos and stuff like that. That's what African Americans would need. Okay? And to even establish that, the first thing they need, which doesn't exist anymore, is gainful employment, where you could hire 80% of people with just a high school degree, or maybe some college after that. But this idea of every single person going out and getting a 4-year degree, that's not only is that unrealistic, but what would that do? What would that really do to the job market? I mean, not only that, but that would leave them in the hole if they couldn't come out and get gainful employment, right? The college education, you got people spending $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 in education. My education, the loans that I have currently in my education are about $200,000. Okay, how would you ever conceivably pay that back without gainful employment? College is becoming less and less of a proper investment, because the jobs aren't there and they're simply not paying, which is going to create a situation where you're basically creating a City of God scenario, if you ever seen that movie, or Mexican favela, or not favela, that's Brazil, or Brazilian favela. I mean, that's what you're creating. I mean, if you look at Mexico, why do they have the drug cartel? They have the exact same problem as a lot of urban cities had in the late 80s. Okay, and in the 80s, if you don't recall, it was a recession. Okay, no jobs, right? Factories were shutting down. Okay, and when you don't have that, and you have drugs, and you have a demand for drugs and narcotics, you're going to create a narco economy.